Call this meeting of the Sustainability and Resiliency Committee to order. I'm John Strand, your chair. We'll run around the table and introduce ourselves, starting on my left.
Tim Mahoney, Mayor.
Brenda Derrig, City Engineer.
Dave Leaker, Fargo Park District.
Paul Mathis, Cass County Electric Cooperative.
Bruce Grubb, City Administrator.
Becky Majerus, Facilities Director.
Nicole Crutchfield, Planning Director.
Jen Sweatman, Member at Large. Casey Steele, Member at Large.
Thank you, everybody. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So move. There's a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll go forward with the agenda as presented. Same with the minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the March 8th minutes, please?
So moved.
So move. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Bruce, any updates before we go to our presentation today?
Can I save my update for the end? I do
You
have an
absolutely,
Yes.
you certainly can.
Thank you.
Then we'll go to the presentation, and if you could introduce us, Bruce, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was contacted a few weeks ago by Roland Ellendu with Ellendu Textiles, I believe, Fargo location? Yeah. They are in the business of recycling or reusing textiles and fabrics, that includes clothing, in an effort to reduce textile waste. And they've not been operating here locally for very long, but they are trying to raise awareness of what they do, obviously, to increase utilization of their services. So Roland Ellendu became aware of our SRC committee and the fact that we have representation not just from the city, but we also have schools, parks, Xcel Energy, Cass County Electric, and public members at large. And so thought this might be a good group to ask to speak about what it is, their business, what they do, and what their mission and purpose is. So Roland, I hope that wasn't too muddy of an introduction for you, but welcome. I'm glad you're here today, and feel free to step up to the microphone at the podium there, and you can tell us about your business.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roland Ellendu. I'm co-founder of Ellendu Textile. We are a textile recycling business here in Fargo. Essentially, what textile recycling is the process of repurposing new and used clothing or overstocked clothing, pre-sorting them, baling them up, and exporting it overseas for reuse. We incorporated Ellendu Textile in 2017, and since inception, we have recycled over 8 million pounds of clothing. The EPA estimates that the environmental impact of that is the equivalent of taking over 9,000 petrol diesel cars off the road. So how Ellendu Textile started really, I like to believe, was with my father. So my father has been in the textile recycling business for a little over 45 years now. And this was when I lived back in Africa. He first started the business in Holland as a young man. He noticed the thrift stores would throw away their overstocks that didn't sell. And so one day he decided to go in there and say, hey, how about I pay you for the overstocks you're throwing away, because I know I could export it to Africa, where I come from, and it'll be affordable clothing for them. And then you get some extra money too as well. And they said yes. So that's kind of how he got into the business. He did it in the Netherlands for about 5 years and decided to move back, marry my mom, and that's where I was born, in Togo, West Africa. So he shut down his operations in Europe and then started in West Africa as a sorter and grader. So pretty much when you collect these textiles and you export it overseas, the people who import it are called sorters and graders, because they sort it, grade it, and then they distribute to the market. And so at age 10, he came home one day and said, hey, you want to come work for me? I said, sure. And so we started working, and a week later, well, I only said sure because I thought I was going to get paid. So a week goes by, and I didn't get paid. None of my brothers started working too, and we didn't get paid. So I came in one day and said, hey guys, any of you get paid? They said, no. I said, no, this is not right. So by the time he got home that day, we already started a protest. Said, we want to get paid. He said, fine, you want to get paid? Cool, this is what's going to happen. You can't ride with me to work. You're not going to get a free ride to work. You clock in when everybody else clocks in. You don't come and do little chit chats with me. No, you take breaks when everybody else takes a break. You clock out when everybody clocks out, and I'll pay you. I said, deal. He said, great. When he said deal, I just remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be so rich. He was paying us $10 per day. I don't know why I thought I was going to get rich off of $10 per day, but I was a little high school kid. But fast forward 9 years later, graduated high school, moved to Moorhead to study computer science in college. Took some jobs in college, and I realized I was just not the best employee in the world. And I accepted that. Immediately after graduating, I figured, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. What better business to start than one that I've been in since age 10. So I banded together with my brothers and we started Untitled Textile. Part of the reason why we chose to start in Fargo was after I did my research and realized that not just in the US, but globally, we were only recycling 15% of our post-consumer textile waste. So in the US alone, on an annual basis, we are generating upwards of 60 billion pounds of post-consumer textile waste and recycling just 15% of that. And globally, we're generating over 184 billion pounds of that. And the accumulation of post-consumer textile waste at the landfills presents an environmental issue that has impact on biodiversity, water pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions. So I kind of figured, okay, Fargo would be a great start. Did my research. There wasn't really any textile recyclers in Fargo as well. So I figured, great. So start here. And in the beginning, we started by partnering with the thrift stores here locally, and slowly expanded to Lisbon, Valley City, Binford now, Grand Forks. And yeah, I think that's about all the places we're at now. So since inception, really 80% of what we were processing was strictly overstocks coming from the thrift stores and the charities when people donated. So all of the stuff that they couldn't sell. But even at that, we weren't processing past 2 loads a month. And 2 loads a month is about 88,000 pounds because every load would weigh about 44,000 pounds that we're exporting. And those numbers for our industry is pretty low, especially considering the population. And just knowing, in Fargo alone, we were recycling overstocks for just probably three thrift stores, and everywhere else just one in every other city that we were in, and doing about 88,000 pounds. And so last year, I decided to reach out to Inforum and one of the news people at Inforum, and they wrote an article about the business. And since then, I've not necessarily just been focused on spreading the awareness of it, but kind of just going around and educating as well on the importance of textile recycling, because I realized the industry as a whole has an awareness issue. So we're not necessarily recycling 15% because people don't want to recycle. It's because they don't know that just like paper and plastic, they can recycle their clothes. That's one part. But I also believe that even with the education of textile recycling, at best, when we educate people, we'll see that number go up to 30-35% at best. The reason being, it is not very convenient for everybody who wants to recycle their textile to drive all the way to our facility here in North Fargo and drop it off. They'll make you a promise all they want, no problem, just to get you off their back. they're not going to do it. They're just going to throw it in their trash. It's a lot closer than North Fargo, especially if they live in West Fargo. They're definitely not coming over. And so I came up with three strategies to combat this issue. The first one was strategic partnerships with thrift stores, retail stores, property management companies, hotels, and so on. The second one was going to be partnerships with like schools, churches, and other big organizations. And the third one was strategic partnership with city sustainability departments like this one to work on a plan to possibly bring a third option for recycling to every home locally. And as that becomes successful, then we can replicate that across the country and eventually globally. I recently went through a cohort program with Emerging Prairie, and through the cohort, I actually came up with a new solution that might be smarter than trying to put a bin in every home in the city. And it was a mobile solution that allowed people to just recycle from the comfort of their home just with a push of a button on their phone. So essentially, they just have an app on their phone to recycle. You have clothes that you would like to recycle, just get on the app, hit recycle. It'll notify a textile recycler in your area, and they'll just come pick it up. As simple as that. The reason why I think that would be a more viable solution, not just for my business, but just for the textile recycling industry as a whole, is one, it is scalable. Something like a mobile solution does not require, outside of the cost to create this software or solution, it is very scalable in that everybody across the globe, not just in America, can download the app and do that. There are textile recyclers in every single country on the planet. I don't know about every city, but it is very scalable, and I think that that'll be a great way to also measure our efforts as far as what we're recycling per city. So right now in the industry, the only way we know the numbers that you have on those flyers in front of you is through surveys. So they survey textile recycling businesses like mine, and they kind of put those numbers together. So it's not very, very precise, and we cannot break it down to gender, age, neighborhood. But some of that data is important because it allows you to understand how people are recycling, their recycling habits, and kind of you can tailor maybe your education around some of those pinpoints, or come up with innovative solutions to drive recycling in that neighborhood or with that particular demographic. And so that's why I thought the mobile solution was a better solution, not just for my business, but the industry as a whole. So that's what I came to share with you guys today. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland. And you mentioned that, kind of in your terms, smaller quantity, 88,000 pounds. Was that per month?
Per month.
Per month.
Yes.
And a truckload, that's 2 truckloads essentially.
Yeah, so that's 2 container loads.
But so you've got that as a data set, but you really don't know where those textile clothing came from, and it'd be nice to have a little bit more data back to the origin of those things, because then you can tailor areas of focus.
Yes, essentially. So yeah, like what we collect, we can only trace it back to, again, the stores we partner with to recycle those. So we might maybe just people in North Fargo recycle, and maybe people in South Fargo don't recycle at all. We don't know that. There is no way to measure that or to put a figure to that. So I kind of felt it.
One other thought that I had, partially because I've been around here so long, is when we started our city recycling program, the year was 1990. Does anybody remember that? A long time ago, but we weren't doing curbside recycling at that time. There was a school of thought that it's far more efficient and economical if you set up neighborhood recycling type centers. And so
Yes.
you'll see those. We still
Yes.
utilize them today because we've got so many apartment buildings. And so we want to make recycling available to multifamily as well as single family.
Yes.
And one of the thoughts I had, even though real estate is a premium, do you think it would make a difference if there was a textile recycling receptacle along with the yard waste, glass, plastic, all those things? Because we must have, I don't know, 30 of those locations just throughout town, north to south, east to west. So you should think about that. We could have a follow-up conversation with our recycling coordinator. That might help.
Yes, I think it will absolutely help. I think we'll see that number again go up from 15%, but sad as it sounds, it's still not very convenient. When I did my research, plastic is recycling only 9%. And that's been around for a while. To think, people know about plastic recycling and they're only recycling 9%, and we're recycling 15% and complaining. But it's that, would it make a difference? Yes, to answer your question, yes. But will we see that number rise? Probably not. Especially our generation, we are very big on convenience. If we can just do this, it's inconvenient. So, that's usually when it comes up, my answer to that is, well, that's been around longer than I have probably been alive, but still, we're recycling 15% for a reason. And so my approach is really to try something that, at least in our industry, precisely has not been introduced before, or it's not something they've given a try. And it's just something I've just looking at how, my generation, Gen Z, we live. I figured, well, yeah, I don't want to call it a lazy thing, but it kind of is. So.
Yeah, and my only thought about the neighborhood recycling drop sites, perfect would be home to home.
Yeah.
But there's some logistics and
Yeah.
how you collect those things and in what sort of vehicle and what you
Yeah.
do. But it's better than having to
Yes.
take them to you in North Fargo, because throughout town, you're probably only a couple blocks away,
Yes.
everybody. You still have
Yes.
to get in the Buick and drive there, but
Right,
it's
yeah.
a couple blocks versus a couple miles.
Yes, absolutely. I think it'll make a difference. Absolutely.
I'm curious, the consequences of not recycling. What's the impact on our landfill? And how do we know? I assume fabric, maybe polyester or something, it must break down at some point, but we all have this notion it just disintegrates. But it has to be a quantity to the landfill.
Yeah, we're currently conducting something called a waste sort, because we did that before we started our recycling programs in 1990. And what a waste sort is a residential garbage truck dumps everything on the floor, and you get college students to sort it. So you can figure out what's recyclable in there versus what isn't. Well, we haven't done that in 30 years, so we're doing that as we speak now. It'll be kind of interesting to see what the composition of a standard household waste stream is. We all have access to commingled recycling now, which I think was a big advantage. Mm-hmm. But this textile product has really never been a focus for some reason.
It's never really been a focus in recycling, just period. But over the last decade, more over the last 5 years, it's kind of come to the forefront of recycling. Every clothing article takes a minimum of 200 years to decompose at the landfills. 200. years to decompose.
So you recycle, clothing that's in good shape for reuse. Is there a need out there that you actually recycle old clothes and, you shred it up, and is there a use for that or anything?
Yes, so we recycle good clothes, torn clothes, stained, because the communities and countries that reuse these clothing are mostly third world countries. Actually, the leading importer of used textiles in the world is sub-Saharan countries, and so countries in Africa, where I grew up. 80% of what we wear in Africa is used clothing. 80%. A lot of times when it's imported, like when I worked for my dad, who was a sorter and grader, one of the advantages I think that I have over other textile recyclers is in the supply and demand chain of textile recycling, I've kind of experienced all of it. So I learned from my dad, who was a sorter and grader. But when we break these bales down and sort and grade them, we bale them up again into smaller bales, and we supply these market sellers who take these bales into the market and they sell it to the end consumer. And so what happens with even clothes that are just ripped a little bit is when we bale them up and sell it, and when the sorter or grader sells it to these market buyers, even before they open in the market, they'd sort through it and look for the ones that are like ripped, and they'd fix it and stitch it up and then wash it and iron it and just like hang it on there and sell. Now, 95% of what we're collecting at our facility here in North Fargo is recyclable. There's a 5% that has like mold damage and all of that. What we do is we set them to the side until there's enough for a load, and we export it to a company out in Germany. They pound it down and turn it into insulation and carpeting. So essentially 100% of what's coming in, we recycle. Just 95% is reuse, and then there's just a small percentage that's not reused and turns into insulation and carpeting. Yes.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, I was just having a question on, it was fascinating, thank you. And, so in terms of textiles, like, I'd say towel, sheets, those kinds of households,
Yes.
you're kind of talking about textiles
Yes.
universally, right?
Yes. Textiles university. Yes.
So Bruce, does the city have any available of those containers to put recycling in that we could make a loan to Roland to try a couple out?
Don't know, but gonna find out.
Another question I have is, over the years of our changing from one form to now we have our automatic recycle bin picker-uppers. What happens to all the old blue tins that people used to set out on their curb? Are any of them available?
Most residents kept those. Mine became my personal laundry basket. But, yeah, so we didn't force people we asked them to find a reuse for them. So we don't, to my knowledge, Commissioner, we don't have a bunch of those, but we may have an inventory of stock of those that never got used, and I'm sure we still have them. But my thought was more the drop sites that do get used, because residents, we don't collect grass at the curb, so anybody that cuts their grass and collects the lawn clippings has no choice but to go to one of these residential recycling drop sites. And if they know that there's a textile recycling opportunity there, then we just have to figure out, have to have a container for them, and then how you get what's in the container delivered to North. That's some of the logistics that we've worked through those type things before, so. Becky Majerus told me something interesting this morning in preparation for this meeting. Where she used to work, she said they installed carpeting that was made from recycled carpet. Becky, tell me that story. That was a great story. And she liked it. Good quality, good stuff.
So we installed a new carpet, and we needed a carpeting that was
had longevity and matched multiple color schemes that we had used within the building. So what was presented to us was a carpet square that had basically broken down carpet from other projects that had been demoed, and it had been woven in. So some of the carpet squares would have black lines in them from a black carpet. Others would have blue lines, others would have maybe an orange line weaved in and out throughout this carpet. The base was kind of a gray carpet, but it was all a recycled carpet. But it kind of gave a good texture to that base gray look of the carpet throughout the building. So, and it was a recycled product.
So we're thinking about we need to replace the carpet in the skyway system and carpet out of recycled carpet. It's kind of gotten to me now. Diana, is Blake online by chance? Anybody online? I was just thinking for Roland that school opportunities, I mean, that's get elementary kids interested in something and instantly the parents become interested. So I can help you follow up with Blake Mixel from Fargo Public Schools as well.
Okay.
But thank you for being here. Very
Thank you
interesting.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does the thrift stores help you out in any way? So Dakota Boys Ranch, let's say they couldn't sell it, do they ultimately then say rather than throwing it away, give you an opportunity to recycle that?
Yeah, Dakota Boys used to, so sometime last year, we used to, 60% of what we processed and exported came from Dakota Boys. But I think before we got into a partnership with them, they were working with a bigger recycler, I think from the cities or Utah, something like that. And right before COVID or after COVID, when we kind of bounced back and we tried to get that going again, they wouldn't recycle with us. They said they were just focused on working with that one other company. So that, yeah.
Roland, what's your contact information? How do people find you? Do you have a website or
Yes.
email or?
Yes, our website is alendutextile.com.
Elendu?
alendutextile.com.
Anybody else? This is really an interesting topic. You know, who would have thunk? Who'd have thunk? You know, but it has to really resonate with a lot of us that we could get so much more value out of our stuff we throw or give away to have it reused and recycled and repurposed.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Does clothes have to be washed? Does it matter to you if it's been, or do they need it laundered?
No. Most of what comes in is really not washed. I tell people it doesn't have to be washed. No, it doesn't have to be washed at all. They could just bring it in as is.
Bruce, let's do some follow-up internally. And with the school district, with the park district here, maybe we can help connect you to some other folks to see if we can get you a little more traction in town.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Great topic. Anybody else?
When my campaign's over, I'll give you a Mahoney for Mayor t-shirts and you can process those.
That's because he's getting termed out. All right, anybody else? Roland, thank you very sincerely
Thank you so
for
much.
presenting to us. And leave your contact information if you have cards or anything.
I don't have that, but I'll send them the contact information.
All right. Bruce will continue on. I don't know, is there anybody on the phone or anybody with public comment that they've shared?
I think a good opportunity, Dave talked about his new complex he's making in South Fargo. Aren't you going to look at things that make this energy-wise and, you know, kind of more user-friendly to the environment? And also, when you started thinking about real grass, no grass, the textile grass, I mean, you think about a lot of those different things about the ability, all the time and work it takes for you guys to keep ball fields right and everything like that. When do you think about then going to a textile, something different than regular natural stuff? And then the other question, is the building you're building down there going to be state-of-the-art as far as the heating, cooling, those types of things?
Yeah, I would think it's state-of-the-art as much as possible. I mean, we're not doing any geothermal wells or anything like that or solar. It's just I mean, not economically beneficial for us for operating costs. And we do currently, all the T-shirts and everything that we do print for our part-time staff, and, you know, when we turn those in, we do recycle those and send those to collection agencies, and they do recycle them and send them overseas, so. But, yeah, I mean, our facility down there in the parks, we are looking at, you know, more prairie grasses, native grasses that you don't have to constantly mow. I mean, for our sports athletic fields, that's just, you know, a necessary evil. But, yeah, we are looking at, you know, more for demonstration and just bringing, you know, some of those native grasses inside the city limits so kids and everybody can appreciate them. And we are doing a lot of that landscaping with the sports complex, so, yeah.
If you got 100%, that'd probably be a mountain of textile. Probably be, you know, you think about how much quantity that would be and how much that would relieve landfills and other spaces. It's just, it's quantifiable. Okay, great presentation, really interesting. Anybody else? Bruce, you had some announcements perhaps?
I had one other item, and I was hoping Ben Dow could be here, but I know he's been busy with the recent rains. But on March 2nd, so that's a few months ago, several of us got an email from an individual regarding the National Wildlife Federation's Mayor's Monarch Pledge. And the pledge involves efforts to help sustain the monarch butterfly population. And it does so, it's aimed at restoring and enhancing the butterfly's habitat locally. And so the pledge involves three main steps. The first is the mayor needs to take an online pledge between December 1st and March 31st. So he did that. That needs to happen each year. And at that time, he selects 3 out of 30 conservation action items for the city to work on. And then step 2, you need to initiate the 3 specified actions throughout the course of the year, and then track and report the progress by submitting an annual report by December 1st. So Diana and I were talking about this a little bit. She helped the mayor sign the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, and we have selected 3 initiatives for 2022. And we'd like to, with Ben Dow's help, bring those back at the next meeting so we can let the SRC know what we're doing and endorse that Mayor's Monarch Pledge.
Bruce, there will be a lot of people really receiving that concept well after our incident a year ago last August that just got our attention, you know, with chemicals and the death of monarchs. But that's really, they'll relish that opportunity to step up our awareness.
Yeah, and I think it's timely as well because, as we all know, we're entering mosquito season, and so I think it's nice that coexisting, supporting monarch butterfly, yet not being in love with mosquitoes. They're not mutually exclusive.
So that'll be at our June meeting.
Yes.
That'll be in Ben. Okay, anybody else? That will wrap up early today. We have a shorter, great presentation, but we'll be coming back in June.
Yes.
And so you all know Bruce is entering into his earlier phases of retirement, but one of the commitments we've made is with him in relationships, continuances is that he will be still working and directing and coordinating the SRC's activities because his heart's in it and the expertise and the knowledge base is there. So we're really fortunate that you'll stay with this group, Bruce, and then we can really have fun because you won't have a boss to be accountable to.
Thank you.
It'll be just us.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Thanks, everybody, for joining up. We appreciate your involvement and service. We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Roland.